Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 550 based on novel. So let's start. The yellow sand fell like rain and formed a curtain. At the same time, the muffled rumbles from underground surged upwards. As the roar echoed, the entire planet began to tremble. The yellow sand before Wang Lin began to sink, and the roar became even more clear. In a flash, a snake-like beast rushed out from underground. It was a giant beast covered in earth, and it was 10,000 feet thick. It was like a giant earthworm, and the part that stuck out was its mouth. From afar, it looked like its mouth covered most of its face. It opened its mouth and charged at the seven-colored daoist. The beast's eyes were still closed, as if they were permanently closed. If it had many tentacles around its body, it would look like the moongazer serpent. However, right now it looked very different. The beast instantly closed in on the seven-colored daoist. Just as it was going to devour the seven-colored daoist, his hand formed a seal and slapped the beast. The seven-colored palm hit the head of the beast and a thunderous rumble echoed. The beast let out a fierce roar and was pushed back 1,000 feet. However, its head twisted and shrank, and stopped itself before inhaling. As it inhaled, the seven-colored daoist's body trembled. Large amounts of seven-colored light were pulled out from his body, absorbed by this beast. The seven-colored daoist's expression changed and the expression of the three generals also changed. The appearance and aura of this beast was very powerful and set off a wave in their hearts. When the three generals and the sovereign saw this beast, they immediately recognized it. "Eye fish? This is actually an eye fish? I had already noticed that this place had a fierce beast, but it is actually an eye fish. An eye fish that grew without any restrictions. Countless years have passed for this beast to grow." The sovereign took a deep breath and looked at the eye fish with a serious expression. The immortal astral continent has a beast named the eye fish. From the moment the fish is born, until it dies, its eyes never open. However, there is a legend that says that once their eyes open, the world will change colors. The black tortoise general looked at the eye fish and thought of a series of rumors. The eye fish moved and charged at the seven-colored daoist. This beast held grudges, and the seven-colored daoist's palm had brought it great pain. It charged forward and began to devour once more. The beast's body was too big, and the part that had come out of the ground was only a small portion. Even so, when it charged forward, it covered the sky and created a large shadow. Killing intent appeared in the eyes of the seven-colored daoist. He raised his right hand and formed a seal as he pointed at the sky. Power pulled a mountain. The seven-colored daoist roared and waved his right hand. A giant seven-colored arm appeared in the dark sky and reached toward the eye fish. In a flash, the giant arm grabbed the eye fish. The seven-colored daoist let out another roar and the arm pulled up. The earth rumbled and the eye fish's 100,000-foot body was pulled out from the planet by the illusory hand as it struggled. After being pulled out, it was mercilessly smashed into the earth. The planet violently trembled as if it was going to shatter. The eye fish's giant body landed on the ground. Large amounts of purple blood sprayed out and mixed with the yellow sand. A miserable cry came from the eye fish's mouth. Its closed eyes trembled as it struggled to open them. In the end, it wasn't able to open them, as if there was an invisible force preventing it from opening its eyes. However, that miserable scream caused the planet to tremble even more violently. Just as the seven-colored daoist turned toward Wang Lin, his expression changed greatly. The planet trembled and thunderous rumbles echoed. In the other 8 deserts on the planet, monstrous roars rang out. The yellow sand swelled up like mountains from all 8 deserts and all rushed toward this place. The 8 large mountains formed a straight line and closed in at a rapid pace. In an instant, the 8 mountains arrived, and the yellow sand collapsed to form 8 giant shadows. These weren't mountains at all but 8 eye fishes that were 100,000 feet long. This planet didn't just have 1 eye fish, but 9. Aside from the first one that was seriously injured, the other 8 came out of the planet and surrounded the seven-colored daoist. They all opened their mouths and charged him. The earth trembled and the yellow sand scattered. Wang Lin was still sitting there, and he put away the third soul. His right hand still held the Li Guang bow, and he was like a statue. He remained motionless with the bow in hand. He was waiting for a chance to attack. This attack would shock the heavens and make the ghost gods cry. Right now, this chance had arisen. The moment the 8-eye fishes charged at the 7-colored daoist, Wang Lin suddenly stood up. His right hand raised the bow and his left hand pulled the bowstring. In an instant, he drew the bow until it was like a full moon. The arrow appeared on the bowstring the moment it was fully drawn. The arrow pointed at the 7-colored daoist and a destructive aura spread out. Wang Lin didn't hesitate at all to release his left hand. The bowstring mercilessly rebounded and the arrow shot out toward the 7-colored daoist. When the Li Guang arrow shot out, the world changed colors, the clouds scattered, the earth trembled, and the sky dimmed. An indescribable killing intent shot out with the arrow and tore open the sky, the world, and every obstacle as it shot toward the 7-colored daoist. The sovereign's expression turned deathly pale and he rapidly retreated. He had been killed twice by this arrow, so the pain was engraved in his heart. Those 3 generals' eyes were filled with fear. They had also felt the might of this arrow before. Now that they saw it again, their scalps went numb. Wang Lin had shot the arrow at a very clever moment, just as the 8-eye fishes pounced. The 7-colored daoist's expression changed and his pupils shrank. He let out a roar as his hands formed a seal and 7-colored light enveloped his body. Just at this moment, the 8-eye fishes closed in. As the thunderous rumbles echoed, Wang Lin's Li Guang arrow pierced the 7-colored light and landed on the body of the 7-colored daoist. Thunderous rumbles echoed across the star system. The planet collapsed and countless pieces of rubble flew in all directions. Wang Lin retreated and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, but he still held onto the bow in his hand. The 3 generals were hit by the ripples of this arrow and coughed out blood. They retreated in panic away from the planet. However, just at this moment, an angry roar echoed and the 8-eye fishes were covered in purple blood as they were pushed back over 10,000 feet. The 7-colored light around the 7-colored daoist became distorted and immediately dimmed. The 7-colored daoist inside was revealed. His chest was a bloody mess. The arrow had pierced his chest, but the 7-colored daoist had caught the end of the arrow, so it couldn't pierce through and destroy his body. The 7-colored daoist's face was pale, but his expression was fierce. He mercilessly pulled the arrow out of his chest. Blood sprayed everywhere. Combined with his fierce expression, it was a shocking sight. However, just as he pulled the arrow, the 8-eye fishes let out heaven-shattering roars. Their bodies trembled as their blood spread out, and their closed eyes opened a sliver. All 8-eye fishes' eyes opened a sliver, and black light spread out. The 8-eye fishes charged angrily at the 7-colored daoist. This time, their bodies were covered by the black light from their eyes, making them look far more powerful than before. Wang Lin held the bow in his left hand and a faint, golden light appeared in his eyes. He didn't hesitate to draw the bow a second time. The arrow in the 7-colored daoist's hand disappeared and appeared in Wang Lin's bow. He looked at the 7-colored daoist and killing intent filled his eyes. His right hand loosened and the second arrow flew out like a ray of light. The people from Planet 5 Elements led by the old man named Ma were floating in the distance, not participating in this crazy battle. The moment they saw Wang Lin draw the bow twice and felt that powerful energy, their expressions changed. The pupils of the old man named Ma shrank and his face was filled with terror. This was the first time he had seen Wang Lin use the Li Guang bow, so the feeling of shock was very strong. The Li Guang bow is actually in his hands. I see now. When he went to Planet 5 Elements, aside from relying on the heavenly Tao, his biggest ace was this bow. Yunifeng's expression was calm, but a huge wave was set off in his heart. He clenched his hand to cover up the panic in his heart. He felt fortunate that he hadn't forced Wang Lin to take out this bow. He wasn't confident he could withstand one blow from it. The moment the second arrow shot out, the golden light in Wang Lin's eyes collapsed as if it was going to dissipate. However, just at this moment, Wang Lin forced it to reform and retained a sliver. This sliver was the last of his celestial bloodline power. Wang Lin was worried that others would see, so he closed his eyes when he shot the second arrow. Wang Lin understood he still had the power for one more shot, but it would be the last shot. The arrow shot out and the world rumbled. Space folded like silk cloth as if it was about to collapse. The seven-colored daoist let out a roar. The 8 eye fishes that had opened their eyes already startled him. When Wang Lin's second arrow shot out, the seven-colored daoist was even more shocked, and he erupted his full cultivation. A seven-colored light spread out and 7 different colored layers of light screens appeared before him. Just as they appeared, the 8 eye fishes closed in. The 8 eye fishes shrank as they closed in. As the black light shined, they turned into 8 arrows. These 8 arrows were exactly the same as the Li Guang arrow. There was no difference, even the aura was same. Everyone here was startled by this. Could this be the rumored superpower the eye fishes have once they opened their eyes? The old man named Ma from planet 5 Element looked closely from the distance. Grand Empyrean Xian Luo calmly looked at the 8 eye fishes. He was the only person who knew about the superpower the eye fishes had. Once the eye fishes opens their eyes, they can take the form of anything and obtain part of its power. However, it is very difficult for this beast to open its eyes. These ones in this cave are very interesting. Xian Luo's eyes lit up with a hint of interest. The 9 Li Guang arrows mixed together, making it impossible to figure out which one was the real one. They shot straight for the 7-colored daoist. His expression changed quickly and the 7-colored light screens around him distorted as thunderous rumbles echoed. The 7-colored light screens collapsed, and along with them, the 9 Li Guang arrows collapsed as well. However, they didn't dissipate, they reformed into the 8 eye fishes. They landed not far from where the first one was, and all 9 eye fishes were on their last breath. This collapse created a shockwave that covered one's vision and divine sense. The 9th Li Guang arrow penetrated everything and headed toward the 7-colored daoist. A miserable groan came from the shockwave, and thunderous rumbles echoed. When the shockwave dissipated, the 7-colored daoist could be seen. He coughed out blood and there was a fist-sized hole in his chest. He had been seriously injured by the Li Guang bow. He let out an angry roar and charged forward. Disregarding his injuries, he charged toward Wang Lin. He was filled with killing intent and a sense of madness. This old man would give up the third soul to kill you. The 7-colored daoist let out a roar and his hands formed a seal. 9 blinding suns appeared around his body. These 9 suns were the 7-colored daoist's most powerful spell. He used it without hesitation to kill Wang Lin. Wang Lin's face was deathly pale. At this moment, he was like a dried-up oil lamp and was very weak. He gritted his teeth as he raised the Li Guang bow with his left hand and drew it with his right. This was his 3rd time, and Wang Lin knew it was likely the last time. The bowstring was pulled back and the arrow appeared once more. There was still blood on the arrow. Wang Lin's right hand loosened and the arrow shot out for the 3rd time. When the 3rd arrow shot out, Wang Lin immediately closed his eyes to hide the golden light that was completely dissipating from his eyes. The 7-colored daoist's chest was covered in blood. As the 3rd arrow closed in, his hands formed a seal and he waved his hand. There was madness in his eyes. He had never been this injured in his life. What was driving him even more crazy was that the person who had injured him was Wang Lin, whose cultivation level was far beneath his. What made him feel even more suffocated was that the Li Guang bow that had injured him was something he had told the sovereign to gift out. He originally intended to give Wang Lin the bow to lure out Lian Daofei. Then, once there was a feud between Wang Lin and Old Ghost Zhon, Wang Lin would use the bow to injure Old Ghost Zhon. After all, neither he nor Old Ghost Zhon could use this bow, as they were incomplete. However, he didn't expect to be seriously injured by the Li Guang bow. The madness in his heart made him disregard everything to kill Wang Lin. As his hands formed seals, the 9 suns shined brightly. They flew out and charged at the 3rd arrow. Thunderous rumbles echoed when the 3rd arrow collided with the 9 suns. The 9 suns collapsed, but the 3rd arrow also showed signs of dissipating. A blinding light erupted and enveloped everything. The 9 suns exploded and a destructive force spread out. Their power was indescribable. The Azure Dragon General was too close, and the destructive force touched him. His body collapsed and he immediately died. The world began to shatter. This world was destroyed. However, this wasn't the end. This destructive force was the full power of the seven-colored Daoist, and the 300 destroyed worlds could not resist it. As the destructive force spread, the 300 destroyed worlds began to collapse one by one. The Black Tortoise's face was filled with terror and he let out a scream as he retreated with the Vermilion Bird General. The Sovereign turned pale and turned into a ray of red light as he escaped. In the distance, the expressions of the third concubine, Tao Master Blue Dream, and the people from Planet 5 Elements changed. They all retreated out of the first flower that formed the 300 destroyed worlds. At the center of destructive force, the seven-colored Daoist's chest trembled. The collision of the third arrow and 9 suns created a shockwave that rushed into his body. Blood sprayed out from his chest and he was seriously injured. However, his eyes were still filled with madness. You're so close to this destructive force. With your cultivation level, I want to see how you will resist it. Wang Lin was indeed the closest, and the destructive force closed in on him. Worlds were collapsing, and even with his ancient Tao inheritance, he couldn't resist. As long as it touched his body, he would be destroyed. However, since Wang Lin dared to set this ambush, he was naturally prepared. He had expected this destructive force to appear. As the destructive force closed in on him, his hands formed a seal and his right hand reached at the void. I'm sorry. Wang Lin let out a sigh. A monstrous golden light burst out and the sleeping madman wearing a messy robe appeared before Wang Lin. The madman had the complete immortal celestial body. Even if the star system collapsed, his body wouldn't be injured. The madman was still sleeping and had never awakened. He felt a bit uncomfortable from Wang Lin grabbing his shoulder, so he twisted a bit and continued to sleep. However, just at this moment, the destructive force arrived and hit the madman. The madman's body shined brightly and remained unscathed under the destructive force. However, the madman's body trembled and his eyes slowly opened. His eyes were filled with confusion and a hint of anger. He was still not awakened and was half asleep. He began to roar angrily at the seven-colored Daoist, who was in front of him. Who is it? Who dares to disturb this king's sleep? You all bullies, this king will tell his big brother, the madman roared at the seven-colored Daoist, not even noticing that Wang Lin was holding his shoulder and using him to block most of the destructive force. You're all too much. You all dare to tickle this king while I'm sleeping? You, as the madman roared, he actually began to snore. His head tilted and he fell asleep once more as if everything he had said before were merely just him sleep-talking. However, his appearance and words caused a great deal of chaos in the surrounding area. The seven-colored Daoist was seriously injured, and after he saw Lian Daofei, his expression changed. His mind became sober. He didn't know how many times Wang Lin could shoot the Li Guang bow, and if Wang Lin teamed up with Lian Daofei, he might actually die here. Now that he was seriously injured, he clenched his teeth and, for the first time since he began fighting Wang Lin, chose to escape. In the distance, old Ghost Shon, who was surrounded by the ghostly sail, had already opened his eyes, but he chose not to come out of the fog. He had witnessed everything, and his eyes were shining. It was unknown what he was thinking. In the distance, the escaping sovereign trembled and almost tripped when the madman roared. Mars. Master. There were also the escaping Black Tortoise General and Vermilion Bird General. Their eyes were filled with shock as they looked at the madman that Wang Lin held up. Lian Daofei. These three weren't the only ones that were shocked. In the distance, the third concubine instantly turned pale and was dumbfounded for a moment. There was also the people from Planet 5 Elements led by the old man named Ma. They all trembled. The old man named Ma looked at the madman with indescribable fear in his eyes. He is actually here. The old man named Ma didn't know that Lian Daofei had come here in the past. His heart rumbled and his mind went blank. Grand Empyrean Xian Luo was walking toward the 9 fishes. He had taken the 5th fish when he suddenly stopped and carefully looked at the madman. His eyes revealed a mysterious light. Lian Daofei. Lian Daozhen's younger brother. He also came here. Thanks to using the madman as a shield, the destructive force was weakened to a point where Wang Lin's ancient Dao inheritance could resist it. As the madman went back to sleep, Wang Lin rapidly retreated toward the 9-eye fishes. Wang Lin moved very fast and arrived next to the 9-eye fishes while holding the sleeping madman. When he looked over, his pupils shrank. He saw that only 4 of the 9-eye fishes remained. The other 5 had disappeared. Wang Lin didn't have time to think, so he waved his sleeve. 3-eye fishes were taken by him. Just as he was about to take the 4th one, it disappeared before him. Wang Lin's scalp went numb and he looked toward where the eye fish had disappeared. There was nothing there, only the sound of the collapse of the 300 destroyed worlds echoed. Xian Luo stood there and looked at the cautious and surprised Wang Lin, revealing a proud smile. Seeing Wang Lin's expression, his smile became even wider. Wang Lin's eyes flashed an indiscernible amount. He knew a secret about the eye fishes. It was something the 7-colored sovereign had discovered after he began raising them in the 300 destroyed worlds. Wang Lin had found it in the memories of the 3rd soul. If there were 2 eye fishes, 1 male and 1 female, a connection would be made between the 2. This connection would exist even if one went into a storage space or a barrier. This connection would last until death. Wang Lin quickly thought of everything and retreated without hesitation. Just at his moment, old Ghost John, who had long become sober but stayed inside the fog, walked out. After walking out of the fog, old Ghost John had 2 choices before him. He could either kill Wang Lin and take the 3rd soul, or chase after the 7-colored Daoist and use this once-in-a-lifetime chance when the 7-colored Daoist was seriously injured to fuse their souls. Although this fusion wouldn't be complete without the 3rd soul, it would only be containment and not fusion, but there wouldn't be any regrets. Although his cultivation level would remain the same, there would be no one to contest him for the 3rd soul. Both choices held great temptation for old Ghost John. If he first tried to kill Wang Lin, he would still be afraid of the Li Guang bow. He wasn't sure how many shots Wang Lin could still use, and if he wasted too much time, the 7-colored Daoist would recover, so it wouldn't be worth it. However, he was unwilling to let Wang Lin go. He wanted to hit 2 birds with 1 stone and capture both of them here. This hesitation only lasted for a moment before old Ghost John walked out of the fog. At this moment, Wang Lin's hoarse voice echoed across the collapsed 300 destroyed worlds. Old Ghost John, how many shots do you think I have left? Wang Lin spoke with a gloomy tone as he carried the madman and retreated into the vortex. Even as he disappeared into the vortex, he still coldly stared at old Ghost John. The illusion around old Ghost John was blurry, but he also stared at Wang Lin, though didn't chase. He couldn't figure out how many shots Wang Lin had left. He was always cautious and wasn't willing to gamble. Wang Lin had chosen to seriously injure the 7-colored Daoist instead of old Ghost John because, according to his analysis, the 7-colored Daoist was more emotional. After all, his soul had only inherited the spells, whereas old Ghost John had inherited all the comprehension, so it was likely that old Ghost John would be more rational. If it was the 7-colored Daoist, Wang Lin couldn't accurately judge what decision he would make, but if it was old Ghost John, Wang Lin would be 80% confident. This was the most satisfactory result he could get from these 7 ambushes. Wang Lin wasn't arrogant enough to think he could kill the 7-colored Daoist, but he could use the opportunity to display his might. He had created many disadvantages for the 7-colored Daoist and even seriously injured him before luring old Ghost John to act. On the one hand, him fighting the 7-colored Daoist was to scare old Ghost John so that old Ghost John wouldn't act rashly. On the other hand, he had also prepared a great gift for old Ghost John. Everything would depend on whether old Ghost John would accept the gift or not. In truth, although Wang Lin's plan had flaws, it made old Ghost John hesitate even more. After Wang Lin disappeared, old Ghost John's eyes lit up. He turned toward where the 7-colored Daoist escaped and rushed out with greed in his eyes. The sovereign had witnessed everything from a distance, and his eyes lit up. He vaguely saw through something, and his heart skipped a beat. He didn't speak to remind old Ghost John but began to scheme his own plans. The moment Wang Lin entered the vortex, the 300 destroyed worlds all collapsed. In the core of the cave world, all the dew on the yellow flower inside the furnace turned to gas and dissipated. Then the large flower slowly withered. Wang Lin didn't know if the remaining people had lived or died. After he disappeared from the vortex, he disappeared from where the first flower was and appeared in another world. Right after he appeared, blood flowed out from the corner of Wang Lin's mouth and his face was pale. He put away the sleeping madman and didn't have time to heal as he looked around. This place was dim, but there was a flower giving of a ghostly light and a chill. This chill came from ice. This flower was a frozen flower. 5 flowers, 8 doors. This is the name of the defense mechanism of the core of the cave world. Wang Lin stared at the frozen flower. Although he didn't have much information from the third soul, he knew the name of this defense. The 300 destroyed worlds was the first flower, and this frozen world was the second flower. Perhaps the remaining flowers were damaged or had even dissipated, but Wang Lin couldn't see them, so he couldn't make any good guesses. The so-called 8 doors were hidden in the last flower. Wang Lin had learned from the third soul that the key to opening the last flower was the memories from the third soul. Among the 8 doors, 7 were fake and only 1 door was real. That door led to the immortal astral continent. The reason they were on the last flower was because the 5th flower was the seal on the door. Staring at the frozen second flower, Wang Lin hesitated, but soon his eyes were filled with determination. His body fused with the flower and he slowly disappeared into the ice. He was already seriously injured, and he entered the second flower without healing. The cold energy surrounded him. When his body appeared in the frozen world, he coughed out a mouthful of blood. The moment his blood sprayed out, it froze and fell to the ground. Wang Lin staggered onto the ground and raised his head to look around. As he looked around, he became startled. This place was a frozen world. The earth, sky, and even the clouds were all frozen. The floating continents were hanging like giant icicles. What place is this second flower? Wang Lin's expression was serious as his divine sense spread out. He didn't find any information about this place from the third soul. As his divine sense spread out, his eyes gradually shined. There was a lot of life force in this world. This life force was inside this frozen world as if it was sleeping. Wang Lin even felt a familiar ancient god aura here. A moment later, Wang Lin's expression suddenly changed and he looked to his left. The ancient god aura coming from that direction was very strong. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin suppressed his injuries and moved to the left toward the ancient god aura. After an incense stick of time, Wang Lin stopped. He let the cold wind hit his face as he looked ahead. 100,000 kilometers before Wang Lin, it was another frozen world, and there sat a woman with long hair. She faced Wang Lin, and between her eyebrows were 7 ancient god stars. The stars slowly rotated and gave off bursts of ancient god aura. Female ancient god. The spatial rift outside of planet Dongling. The woman's eyelashes trembled and she slowly opened her eyes. She calmly looked into the distance and saw Wang Lin. Their gazes collided. "Welcome to the Dongling sect," the woman spoke softly. Her voice was very beautiful as it echoed through this frozen world. 100,000 kilometers away, Wang Lin silently pondered. Wang Lin remembered why this ancient god aura was so familiar. When he killed the Xiong family ancestor on planet Dongling, he felt this aura. This place is planet Dongling? Wang Lin took a step and ripples echoed under his feet. He crossed 100,000 kilometers in one step and arrived 1,000 feet away from the female ancient god. The woman looked at Wang Lin with a mysterious light hidden under her calm gaze. After hearing Wang Lin's words, she shook her head. "This place is the Dongling sect, not planet Dongling. We have met before. My name is Wang Lin, I wonder what your name is." Wang Lin looked at the woman, especially at the 7 stars between her eyebrows, and sat down. The woman softly said, "Yun Na, the Dongling sect's god elder under the celestial sovereign." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he slowly said, "Whether this place is planet Dongling or the Dongling sect, why is it in the second flower?" You're the first person to enter this frozen world from the entrance in the core of the cave. I can feel Master's soul in you." The woman's words were soft, but when Wang Lin heard them, his heart skipped a beat. "Master," Wang Lin didn't speak, but he looked at Yun-Na, waiting for her to continue. "This is the second flower of the 5 flowers 8 doors. Everything here was created by Master, including me, who contains a drop of Yimo's heart blood. This is the Dongling sect, and it was made from Master's memories. It should be exactly the same as the Dongling sect on the immortal astral continent. My Master is the 7-colored celestial sovereign. In his early years, he was a disciple of the Dongling sect, but due to some reason, he was kicked out. He then created this place to remember his old sect. Everything here is nourished by Master's life force. Once he dies, everything here will lose its life force and be frozen. You're the first person to enter this place, and you have Master's soul, so you are the master of this place," Yun-Na spoke softly as she looked at Wang Lin. "You're injured. I have the last of Yimo's heart blood. Once you fuse with it, you will be complete, and you should be able to use it to heal. This video will end here.